Ms. Shepard, I'd like to begin with you. I'm going to enter into the record a letter from Judge Timothy C. Batten, Chief United States District Judge, Northern District of Georgia, to the warden at US Penitentiary Atlanta from just January of this year. Now, our review of internal BOP records demonstrates that a pattern of misconduct and dysfunction persists at least as far back as 2014 at this facility. This is from January of this year. The judge asks the warden for answers with respect to reports of rats in the building, roaches in the food, poor nutrition and emaciation of inmates, lack of access to hygiene products, lack of access to medication, lack of access to mail, limited access to toothbrush and toothpaste, no change of clothes for several weeks, a month of 24-hour solitary confinement with only a Bible for entertainment or reading, a week, as you mentioned, with only a paper jumpsuit and paper blankets for an inmate on suicide watch without mental health treatment, only being permitted 15 minutes out of a cell every day to bathe, make phone calls, and use the library, blockage of written and other communications between attorney and client, difficulty arranging interview between inmate and psychologist. I mean, is this consistent with your experience, and what does this say about the state of affairs? This is just in the jail at US Penitentiary. I want to remind everyone, these are presumptively innocent pretrial detainees. These conditions would be appalling if any human being were subjected to them. We're talking about people who have been convicted, not of the crime they've been charged, if any crime at all. Would you please comment?
Yes, Chairman Ossoff, that is representative of our experience. We have observed the same conditions that are detailed in that letter. And I would like to make clear to the subcommittee that these are not conditions that were created or result from the COVID-19 pandemic. These are conditions that we have seen for as long as I have been going to USP Atlanta, which dates back to 2014, and for my colleagues even further back. And they've also been reflected in records established in front of the district court as well as in front of the 11th Circuit.
Well, I cited in my opening statement a note in a BOP internal investigative document, the BOP's own staff stating on the record that they believed misconduct in the prison constituted a violation of constitutional rights. What do these conditions mean for access to counsel, the Sixth Amendment right that every defendant has to be in consultation with their attorney and receive effective counsel?
As I alluded to in my earlier statement, it is difficult to the point of, in some cases, impossible for us as attorneys to communicate with our clients. There are extremely lengthy delays in even our clients receiving legal mail. But it is a necessary part of our representation of our clients to meet with them, to discuss the evidence against them, to discuss what their legal strategy will be. All of those conversations require contact with our clients. It is not unusual for it to take several weeks, if not longer, to even schedule an opportunity to go into the facility. And again, when we do get into the facility, our time with our clients is extremely limited, largely due to the chaos and dysfunction that exists within the facility. Getting into the facility, being processed in, there's often, even if we have an approval from an administrator to come for the meeting, the people at the front gate don't have that. They didn't know we were coming. No one is assigned to actually monitor the meeting. All of those delays end up creating a situation where our time with our clients is extremely limited. And the consequence of that is that then hearings that the court has scheduled often have to be delayed. It is not unusual for us to have to ask the judge for continuance after continuance after continuance because we are not able to prepare for a hearing or to file motions because we simply don't have access.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Dr. Ramirez, I want to talk about access to narcotics in the facility, the impact on mental health. I noted that internal BOP reports that the subcommittee secured dating back as far as 2014 noted severe deficiencies in the ability to manage and prevent the flow of contraband and including drugs and weapons throughout the facility. I noted an event in the last 5 years when BOP's own internal investigators found that the staff had deliberately disabled a spectrometer meant to detect trace amounts of narcotics entering the facility. In the summer of 2021, this is just in very recent past, after 8 or 9 years of BOP's internal reports noting the failure to prevent contraband, there were seized heroin, methamphetamine, Suboxone, marijuana, tobacco, more than 100 instances that summer of locating narcotics, ecstasy, synthetic marijuana, K2, not to mention a kilogram of marijuana found in a locked education storage closet, 300 grams of marijuana found on a work site, 158 pills of a variety of loose prescriptions, 170 grams of methamphetamine in a common area, weapons, nearly 500 cell phones, all inside the facility, all found in a few sweeps in the summer of 2021. Please describe the problem at USP Atlanta with respect to access to narcotics and how it intersects with your work in mental health and the suicides that you saw while you were there.
So, unfortunately, the ease of access to drugs makes it very difficult for mental health providers to differentiate between genuine mental illness and the effects of whatever unknown substance the individual may be on. So we spend much of our time initially assessing, what the individual's experiencing. Is this because of drugs? Have you had depression? It takes much longer to kind of tease out whether this is an organic issue or something created by a chemical that was recently ingested. Unfortunately, the lack of security, routine searches, routine drug testing is such that we can't, we always have to assume that the inmate is intoxicated and that it is not necessarily presenting in an organic mental illness. So it certainly creates a delay in developing a treatment plan and moving forward and how to best help that individual.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. And the suicide investigation reports that the subcommittee secured over many years reveal negligent staff responses to suicides in progress, negligent staff conduct before, during, and after suicides. This is April 2016. Correctional services staff had failed to locate the inmate for his scheduled mental health treatment. Census counts were not being properly conducted and documented. October 2017, this is a quote, "Staff responded with no apparent sense of urgency to the inmate hanging in his cell, logged no rounds on the shoe that day. No evidence pertaining to the suicide was retained." This is the BOP's own internal findings. Another suicide, October 2019. Rounds on the shoe were not performed, a delay in the initiation of life-saving measures, mishandling of evidence again. My final question, with the ranking member's indulgence, Ms. Whitehead, for you, staff misconduct, staff failure to follow policy. Based upon your experience, how deficient were the management processes that should have caused staff to adhere to BOP policies and procedures? And once you're concluded, it'll be ranking member's turn. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Senator. As I said, the BOP has a policy on misconduct. And the way it happens, if it's observed, you write a memo, you report it. I personally have reported maybe 6 instances when I was at Atlanta in about 16 months. I was never interviewed. There are fights, staff fight each other, physical fights in the prison. Those cases are not investigated. There are staff that curse each other in the presence of inmates. I've witnessed it, I've reported it. I've never been interviewed. So when staff don't report to work, they're AWOL. 300 hours of AWOL, and that staff member continues to go to work. Without a system of controls in place to curb misconduct among staff, the inmates feel that they can do whatever they want to do.
Thank you, Ms. White.